You spend your whole life preparing for love, for success, for happiness. You keep waiting for the perfect moment to begin. But what if I told you the beginning never comes? Not because it doesn't exist, but because you've been looking in the wrong direction. We are conditioned to believe that life starts after we fix ourselves, after the pain is gone, after we are beautiful, after we are loved, after we are worthy. But the truth, the terrifying, liberating truth, is that your real life begins the moment you stop trying to become someone else and start remembering who you already are. It does not begin with achievement. It begins with surrender, with the breakdown, with the moment you can no longer pretend. When the lies collapse, when the roles crumble, when the mask you've worn for decades finally splits, and you are forced to look in the mirror and meet the stranger you've become. That moment is not your failure. It is your beginning. People fear breakdowns because they think it means something is wrong. But Jung taught us what we call breakdown is often the soul breaking through the noise, through the conditioning, through the armor you've mistaken for personality. When you hit the wall, when nothing works anymore, it is not the end. It is the soul's way of calling you home, because the path you were on was never really yours. You inherited it, you absorbed it, you survived it, but you did not choose it. And life, real life, can only begin when you start making choices for the first time that come not from fear, not from programming, not from shame, but from truth. The truth that you are not who they told you to be, not who your trauma shaped you into, not who your parents needed you to become to feel safe in their broken world. You are something wilder, older, truer. You are the part of yourself you silenced when you were told you were too much, too emotional, too intense, too honest. You buried that self to survive. But now, survival is no longer enough. You want to live. And that desire, that sacred hunger for more, that is when your real life begins. It begins not when you are healed, but when you are honest, not when you are perfect, but when you are present, not when you are accepted by the world, but when you finally accept yourself. You will feel lost at first, like you've stepped off the map. And because you have, the map you were following was never yours. It was drawn by people who were lost themselves. But when you step into the unknown, something ancient awakens. Your instincts, your truth, your soul. You start to feel again, not numbness, not the fake highs, but real, raw, pulsing aliveness. You begin to say no. You begin to say yes, not because you should, but because you mean it. You walk away from people who drain you without needing them to understand. You stop performing. You stop pleasing. You stop apologizing for your existence. And for the first time, you feel free. This freedom, it's not loud. It's quiet. It feels like peace, like stillness, like finally being able to breathe in your own body without guilt. Your real life begins when you stop waiting for permission, when you stop auditioning for a role you were never born to play, when you stop asking the world to choose you, and you choose yourself. It's messy. It's terrifying. It's holy. You will lose things, friends, jobs, illusions. But what you gain is everything. You will find your voice, your rhythm, your soul family, your joy. Not the kind that performs for attention, the kind that hums inside your bones when you're alone. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That privilege is not handed to you. It is earned through pain, through courage, through choosing your truth over their approval. That choice is when your real life begins. Not when they love you, not when you're rich, not when the world claps, but when you can sit with your shadow and not run, and when you can face your shame and not flinch. When you can look at yourself in the mirror and whisper, "I will not abandon you ever again." That's the moment. That's the rebirth. That's the real beginning. And it doesn't happen once. It happens every time you choose yourself in a world that profits from your disconnection. So choose again and again and again. Every time you do, the false life dies a little more, and the real one, the sacred one, begins. And now, it's your turn. Your real life does not begin when others approve of you. It begins when your internal compass, long buried beneath societal roles and obligations, starts guiding you home to your authentic self. This process is not gentle. It is an unlearning, a breaking open. Jung said the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parent. Many of us walk through adulthood acting out inherited traumas, dreams that were never ours, and patterns of pain dressed up as destiny. But your soul, yourself, waits for you in silence, asking only that you stop running, that you listen. And when you finally do, when you embrace that whisper from within, The false life you once wore like armor disintegrates, and your true life, wild and unfamiliar, begins to bloom. To live your real life is not to chase happiness, but to endure the fire of becoming. It is the willingness to walk through the loneliness that comes with truth. To lose people who only loved your performance, to grieve a self that no longer fits. Jung's concept of individuation is not a luxury, it is a necessity. The integration of shadow, the reclaiming of projection, the painful process of withdrawing your soul from all the places you gave it away. This is the slow birth of the authentic self. And yes, it is a birth. Bloody, inconvenient, miraculous. Your real life begins not at the finish line, but at the threshold. When you can stand in your pain without numbing, when you can hold your fear without collapse, when you can tell the truth without needing applause, you are living, you are real. And finally, remember this. Your real life begins the moment you understand that you are not here to be understood. You are not here to shrink into palatable pieces for others to consume. You are here to burn, to awaken, to disrupt the story of limitation and live a new myth, one written by the self, not the ego. This life, your life, is waiting for your permission. You don't need to be ready. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to say yes. In the trembling, in the uncertainty, in the silence, say yes. That is when everything changes. That is when your real life begins. There comes a moment so quiet that even your thoughts hesitate. It's not dramatic, not like the stories you've been told. No angels sing, no sky splits open. You just stop. Stop running. Stop explaining. Stop trying to be anything other than what you are. This moment is subtle but sacred, a psychological threshold. It's the moment the persona dissolves. The carefully constructed image you wore like a second skin, shaped by expectation, approval, trauma, survival, melts away in the soft fire of self-recognition. You begin to hear a voice you hadn't heard since childhood. It says things like, "I miss you," and "Where did you go?" That voice is not weak. It is ancient. It is your soul. It is the self Jung spoke of, the totality of who you are, buried beneath decades of programming. You realize then that what you thought was maturity was often just adaptation. You didn't grow. You edited yourself, shrunk to fit, decorated your wounds with success. But the self wants more. It wants wholeness. It does not care how you look or how much you earn. It wants your grief, your joy, your raw, unfiltered truth. It wants you to stop striving and start integrating. The shadow, the dreams, the rage, the longing. They are not symptoms to fix. They are messages. And when you finally listen, truly listen, the healing begins not as a cure, but as a reunion. The day you let all your parts come home is the day your real life begins. And then, when you no longer fear your own depth, when you've kissed the face of despair and sat in silence with your shame, a door opens inside you, not outwardly, not into the world, but inward, into the vast, mysterious cathedral of your own psyche. The unconscious no longer terrifies you. It becomes your teacher. Symbols arise from dreams not to confuse but to guide. Your instincts sharpen, your boundaries harden, your love softens. You see the world not through the lens of what can I get, but through what part of me am I reclaiming through this? Every relationship becomes a mirror, every challenge a message. The ego no longer runs the show. It serves the self. The goal is no longer perfection, it is aliveness. You start walking differently, speaking differently. You stop saying yes to what kills you slowly. You stop proving yourself. The people who loved your mask may drift away. Let them. You are not dying. You are being born. This is individuation. This is soul retrieval. This is the return of the exiled king, the buried queen. You do not become someone new. You remember who you were before the world taught you to forget. And that remembering, that sacred act of self-return, is the truest revolution there is. It does not shout, it does not beg. It simply exists, fully, freely, fiercely. That right there, that is when your real life begins.